Hey, man, calm down. Look, you got one more time. One more time. Throw me around like a toy. I'm linking all your info. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I said it. You heard me. You don't have the guts. Or the wires? Wi-Fi? Whatever. Anyways, you're an iPhone. Apple is dedicated to the privacy of its users. We'll see about that when I leak your bank info, social security number, and your middle name. Yeah, John Olu. Man, yeah, this hocus pocus middle name. Yo, chill. It's Nigerian, bro. You know we got those run-on sentence 57-letter names. Hey, look, I don't care about your little abracadabra name. I'm gonna do a little magic trick and just put your data all over the web. Yeah, alright then. Hey, what are you doing? No, stop that! Stop! Your mom's on! Computers, smartphones, hospitals, Las Vegas, the guy's locker room. What exactly do all of these have in common? Don't worry, I'll wait. Take your time. If you thought something along the lines of these objects or settings harbor secrets and confidential information that should never leave the area, then congratulations, you are today's lucky winner! Oh boy, what I win! A guarantee that all of your data will be safe and secure through all of your online endeavors. Wow, really? Not really. Aww. Oh, and by the way, those secrets that you let out in the boys' locker room, yeah, no, everyone on campus already knows you're a cheater and she's definitely gonna break up with you. So, privacy in this new age of technology, what does it look like? What does that even mean? And why should I even care? I mean, I have nothing to hide, right?
Flashback.
Oh my god. I'm a little deviant. Let me just, yep. Right there. Much better.
End of flashback.
So to start, I'd like you all to understand that when you connect your devices to the internet in order to browse any websites or use certain apps, you're already kind of giving up some of your data and anonymity to those creators. It's a little bit of a give and take. Also, you're only a few minutes into this video, so don't get me into that, ooh, I already browsed the web in incognito mode, so haha, me, big brain, already 5 steps ahead of you, dude. Your internet service provider definitely knows what you've been looking up since day one, regardless of if you are using incognito mode or a different web browser. And trust me, they are very worried and concerned about what they've been seeing from your search history. It's true, you really should go to therapy. In fact, here's a quick list of what your ISP can already see from your online usage. Sites you visit and how long you stay on them, the content that you watch, the device that you're using, your geographic location, and potentially a lot more if you're on an unencrypted website. So, moving on, there's a whole lot that goes into just how exactly the internet works and how you're able to view the content that you enjoy, whether it be video streaming, online shopping, gaming, etc. But there's sort of a hidden factor that some of us don't really consider. What do companies or providers or whoever really get out of this? I mean, somebody probably spent a lot of time and manpower creating the applications that you check or use every day. Is it money? Yep. Is it a very specifically curated profile of just who you are? That sounds about right. Kind of specific there. Even then, I still ask, why should I care about this? I mean, it's not like I'm worried about some creep stalking me or something. What's the big deal, like, if other companies get to know me a little bit better? Well, In recent years, we've seen news outlets report on just how insidious hardware or software products can be in terms of gathering information about consumers. Would you be worried if you knew that someone could monitor the movements of your mouse and determine the links that you click on when you're using your laptop or desktop? Do you care that some smart TVs or apps can hear every bit of your private and intimate conversations? Does it matter that anyone can do a simple Google search of your name just to find information about you? It definitely does help to do a quick search on your name just to see what comes up and what you might be associated with. Does anyone ever read those terms and conditions that provide companies with your username and password and email address, postal address, phone number?
3 hours later.
Third-party login info, photos, text messages, clickstream data, and Lord knows what else. I, for one, do not. Okay, so personally, I would be very much appalled if you did read said terms and conditions, but like, I'm not really expecting anyone to start after watching this video. Like maybe busting a little control F action here and there, just look for keywords. It doesn't really take much effort to find the scoop on the latest breaches of consumer privacy by companies or even by the government. An article from journalist Marissa Lang details such events, like how Facebook has faced lawsuits accusing the company of intercepting and reading messages that users originally believed to be private, or how hackers within the CIA have discovered zero-day attacks, which are basically vulnerabilities that allow them to co-opt Android and Apple smartphones, Samsung smart TVs, and internet-enabled cars, among other computer systems, to spy on targets. A quote that Lang includes from Jules Polonetsky, CEO of the Future of Privacy Forum, explains how data has become especially vital and is ingrained in the tools that we use today, to the point that there's an ethical conversation to be had, where users should be disclosed how exactly companies plan on using our data. This sometimes makes me want to just have a conversation with the person on the other end monitoring my every move and just be like, who are you? You CIA? FBI? NSA? PhD? NBA? NFL? What's going on here? Nah, the craziest thing is when you'll be talking to somebody about something and like, you'll get on your phone or your computer and you find an ad for that exact same thing. Yo, we're talking, bro. Big Brother is definitely watching, and in more ways than one. On the extreme end of this topic, we can see how groups like, for example, the Chinese government have used technology to its advantage of investing its efforts in surveillance, gathering biometric info on their citizens, such as fingerprints, facial images, and DNA, as outlined in an article and podcast from The Intercept titled Inside the Chinese Government's Growing Surveillance State. Governments like this may often have this information to quickly suppress journalists, activists, or other groups of people who actively support any sort of opposition to the governing regime. Advancements in AI have helped to fuel such efforts of suppressing privacy as well. One important matter in the data that is picked up regarding citizens in China, though, is that local governments and private companies kind of work on their own social record systems that all act differently from each other. So there's not like a specific singularity that's like within all of this. There's not exactly a sort of centralized figure that their government uses as a whole, but people might still take a lot of issues with this if there's like an automated system implemented by the government that judges just how good or bad of a person you are, to the point that it dictates if you gain or lose particular rights, like being able to take out a loan from the bank or being able to buy some sort of property, especially in the case where the judgments of what's good or bad may seem subjective or not at all even explained to you by anyone. We just place our trust in the system because it knows best, right? You know, actually, this all does sound kind of familiar now that I place it that way, but now's not the video for that. I will be linking an article, though, to Wired's Nicole Kobe that explains the system in great detail below. Now, I'm not so sure I could say that Western countries are exactly in this position, although the idea of surveillance capitalism kind of has me thinking otherwise. This video might get a little too long if I add more about that, so you can also find another link below in the description regarding surveillance capitalism by the person who actually first coined the term. The Pegasus software was actually another security exploit that I was introduced to when looking more into this topic of privacy and security. This is essentially some sort of digital spyware created by the Israel-based cybersecurity company NSO Group that infects mobile devices and reveals to an attacker just about any information and detail that they want to find on a victim. Reports claim that the software can be installed remotely without anyone ever opening a document or a website link, and it even grants access to your text messages, photos, emails, videos, and contacts list, along with recording phone calls and secretly turning on a phone's microphone and cameras to create new recordings. Pretty high-tech, secretive, creepy stuff if you ask me. This app has been used in the past to target activists, journalists, politicians, executives, rights workers, and also even business people. It is stated that the app is intended for use by governments to aid them in tracking down criminals and terrorists, though it's ironically even been used to spy on devices belonging to government officials. This software especially gained traction in the news after a journalism nonprofit, Forbidden Stories, and human rights group Amnesty International shared with 17 news organizations a list of more than 50,000 phone numbers for people believed to be of interest to NSO customers. Of those targeted, these included 10 prime ministers, 3 presidents, a king, a digital security researcher, a pro-independence member of the European Parliament, 6 people working for the Palestinian human rights group, the president of France, and the wife of a murdered Saudi columnist. Maybe the common person may not get hit by something like this, but it isn't entirely impossible. Spyware like this can be a huge risk to privacy, freedom of speech, and more, causing more than reasonable concern for many, including even the United Nations, as they write off spyware and surveillance as a threat to privacy and human rights. Keep in mind that this is also only one of the many hundreds and thousands of examples of spyware that certain people can obtain. There's plenty of people who go online to buy sophisticated spyware or other tools at a rather cheap price. Another worrisome puzzle piece that fits into this discussion is that of data brokers and other third-party entities that thrive off of selling specifically curated profiles of yourself to companies, governments, and, well, pretty much anyone who asks for it. See, when you go on most websites, you might pick up third-party cookies that track you and your data across the web, allowing for companies to, get a better idea of who you are and how to market to you. Hopefully Grandma understands that explanation just a little better this time. So the internet thrives off of data, more specifically ads, and it's what makes us have the ability to enjoy a lot of the things that we can view or interact with for free. But the situation with these data brokers can become most unnerving, considering the fact that there really isn't much stopping them from gathering as much data as they can on you, like stated on an episode of Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. This incredibly thorough and well done episode spoke on just how easy and insidious the practice of mining and harvesting for user data is by data brokers who routinely provide information about you and I to basically, again, anyone who wants it. This kind of info can range from like first names to last names and location to clickstream data, religious affiliation, and even medical history. This data is not really as regulated though by the law, so loopholes can be made for information to be bought and distributed by other third parties, US government entities, and the like. So in his report, Oliver makes some mentions of cases where, like an office supplier retailer, OfficeMax, was able to find out about a man whose daughter recently died, as well as how she died. A TV station, WRAL, that was able to purchase data that included the names, addresses, and illnesses of those living in a particular zip code. This included diabetes, cancer, depression, and high blood pressure. And finding this information online actually did not violate HIPAA. Apps also like Life360 that were reported to be selling location data to third parties, including brokers who would then sell them that data to marketers. And even the case of a domestic violence survivor whose address appeared on a data broker's site. Oliver even mentions a case of a stalker who killed a former classmate as they were able to purchase some info about her from a data broker for only about $45. Oliver notes that as scary as this also might be, for some people who want to opt their data out of various people search sites, there's not really any sort of federal law that requires brokers to kind of honor that request. The government themselves can and do buy data to carry out investigations about people, providing a loophole around your Fourth Amendment rights that normally protect citizens from unreasonable searches and seizures by the government. think we kind of get the point of just how badly at risk our privacy is when it comes to data brokers. So on to the next point. One last recent situation that particularly stood out to me had to do with an issue of privacy regarding Facebook. More specifically though, it had to do with the situation that broke out earlier this year where a 17-year-old girl in Nebraska who was like 28 weeks old took some abortion pills to terminate her pregnancy, and she actually ended up getting charged with concealing the death of a person and hiding a dead human body, since abortions done after 20 weeks of pregnancy are legal in that state. So what made that particular matter stand out was the fact of how it kind of highlights the role that social media, big tech companies, and the data that they store on us can have in legal cases. An article actually from the Washington Post by Naomi Nix and Elizabeth Dwolskin explains the issue in great detail about how there's kind of a strict process that law enforcement officials first need to go through in order to actually obtain individuals' private communications or location data to kind of bolster a legal case. And according to Corianne McSherry, legal director at the privacy advocacy group Electronic Frontier Foundation, if the order is valid and targets an individual, tech companies don't really have much room to kind of challenge that. Nix and Dolskin's article also mentioned a law enforcement officer actually asked the court to order Facebook to turn over private messages between Celeste Burgess and her mother Jessica, which led to the charges stated earlier. According to experts, two criteria must be met for a court to be issued such a warrant: evidence that a crime has been committed, and a narrowly tailored request giving kind of some details as to when the exchange maybe took place and who was involved. Experts in that article also noted that once a tech company is given a court order, they can either comply or be in contempt of court and face a fine. One last article from Jessica Taylor Price at News at Northeastern University cited Kendra Albert, a tech lawyer at Harvard's Law School's Cyber Law Clinic, at how this data is typically used to describe how data is used to add evidence of a person's intent to have an abortion rather than to begin an investigation, kind of implying that pregnant people aren't being monitored at all times, though technically it isn't really impossible. Overall, the biggest concern in all of this becomes that even if tech companies don't wish to comply with situations where law enforcement provides a warrant to search for user data, the information that they still keep on consumers is far too much. And many people have actually advocated for either the limiting of user data retained by these companies, limiting maybe like the duration that they keep user data for, or using encryption algorithms that make it so that only the sender and receiver of messages know what has been sent to each other, having the effect of not really allowing for other companies to see what details were stated, and by extension, law enforcement. And each and every one of these examples are really just kind of scratching the surface. I haven't even gotten into what everyday average Joe could do, because everyday average Joe could turn out to be a person with a very specific set of skills. You don't know what their background is. Everyday average Joe could be the person who helped you install all of your IoT devices to essentially create a smart home, but forgot to mention that the spyware that they added so they could monitor your every move, the times when you enter and leave your home, or possibly the places that you frequently visit. Everyday average Joe could be the person gifting you with a USB keylogger that gathers your login information that accesses your bank's or medical history. They could even be a coworker who was let go but still has knowledge about and access to certain systems that allow them to leak very private information about you. And with just a tiny bit of Wireshark knowledge, Joe could be snooping on the packets that you're sending to sites through that public unencrypted Wi-Fi that you connected to while you enjoy your lovely Frappuccino from Starbucks. I'm just saying, y'all be sleeping on Joe now, and I don't think they appreciate that. Joe be moving like that. Y'all just don't be paying attention. So, what do we do, right? Because I just said a lot of stuff that might sound kind of concerning to some people, but surely there's got to be something we can do about this stuff. Well, you see, while y'all are out here with your info being exposed, I'm kicking it back with my exclusive subscription to NordVPN. No, not really. I'm not really being like sponsored or anything. But seriously, it is my belief that something should be done about this. From the client side or the consumer side of things, your privacy may not always be a guarantee when you're online, but there are still definitely ways to create better safeguards for your data. If we wanted to go, let's say maybe the nomad way, we could always just say goodbye to the internet, throw our routers and modems to the trash, and swear to never get online anymore. But it's kind of boring. I don't like that. Instead, how about we do something more practical, like using a VPN? And no, not Nord. Although, if they are watching right now. So, when you're on your laptops or your desktops and you're browsing the web, even being critical of what web browser you're using can be a good start. We all know of Chrome as this quick, simple, and easy to use web browser that by default harbors Google, which is this robust search engine that basically has the answers to just about everything and everything. Heck, if you ever need to search anything up, no one ever goes just Bing it or Yahoo it. We're always talking about Googling it. But you should note that they kind of have their eye on a lot of stuff, and this also includes you. Some of the tools that you do have access to, though, when joining the Google ecosystem beyond monitoring trends, listening to podcasts, viewing travels, and ads, is seeing what Google knows about your location history, ad personalization, and website analytics. But for me, I personally turned those features off because I just didn't feel very comfortable at the time knowing that this info was being monitored, but I will link those down below if you're curious to see what they know about you. So Google does offer ways for consumers to be more security conscious and provide ways to turn off location and other tracking info, and even gives you an option to do periodic cleanups on your data, but that can only really go so far. Alternatives that are more commonly cited are using browsers such as Firefox, Brave, or for those with an Apple product, Safari. They also may be paired with using a search engine like DuckDuckGo, StartPage, or others that have taken strong stances on building privacy with consumers in mind. Other privacy-conscious users may also advise adding another layer of protection through advocating the use of VPNs or virtual private networks. And these can basically help ensure that while your ISP can tell that you may be connected to a VPN, they won't see things like the websites you visit or your downloads and what you're searching for. This has the addition of also helping you get around bandwidth throttling or tools of censorship if you live in a country where the government may not take too kindly to you saying bad things about them. But different countries have different rules still on restricting the use of VPN though, so be sure to check that out first. Expanding into personal accounts and keeping yourself safe against hackers, ensuring that you aren't going around sharing your credentials is a pretty decent start if you ask, well basically anyone. Ensuring that you're also using longer passwords for your user accounts is also great. As challenging as it might be to remember a short but complicated passwords, longer passwords may be tougher for malicious users to crack or find. Changing passwords frequently, or using random password generators and writing said passwords down rather than kind of saving them online, that can also help greatly when it comes to staying secure. Try checking up on if your passwords have been compromised on sites such as Have I Been Pwned or Pawned? I say pwned, whatever, P-W-N-E-D, I don't care. Or if you do stick to browsers like Chrome, viewing your password manager there to ensure if account passwords have been involved in any sort of data breaches. iPhone users also now have the ability to detect if their passwords have been compromised when going to settings, security, I think it's settings, passwords, security recommendations, and turning on detect compromised passwords, along with removing the ability for apps to even track you. If ever asked for your birthday when creating some online account, entering a false date can actually be sort of a good idea, considering that if something does happen to your account, or if anyone knows your birthday and ever plans to get into said account of yours, this is a question that may come up. It may just not be the best idea to share all of that kind of information online. It's kind of just Internet Safety 101. Those were some actually very helpful classes, actually. And it also can be very much worth it to enable two-step or two-factor authentication if a website or application allows it. This just provides like another layer of security when trying to sign into some accounts online. When those software updates come for your hardware devices, do them. Even if not immediately, scheduling some time in advance to give the latest security updates can aid you in kind of keeping attackers at bay, kind of providing patches against vulnerabilities known and unknown. If ever possible, updating your hardware can also be a good idea as well, considering that some devices do become vintage or obsolete after some time, kind of rendering them incompatible for updates and keeping the data that's on that system very vulnerable. Lastly, scammers are all over the place. Stay on top of these social engineering tricks and be very mindful of who you're speaking to on the other side. Ask questions also if necessary. Beware of phishing too. Not all links, emails, text messages, or even phone calls are meant to be opened or answered. Everyone basically thinks that they're impervious to scams until they end up being the one that gets scammed, so yeah, humble yourself. One last point that I want to mention is that I do think this entire discussion around privacy is also a fair enough reason why we should advocate for people in power to have at least a decent understanding of how exactly data moves in the digital world, or at least place people who have proven to be well versed in practices of fields, say, such as like cybersecurity or data science or engineering, in some governing position. I personally would like to believe that were this the case, proper legislation could be made or proposed on creating more standards to how data may be regulated or handled. And that this isn't to say that there hasn't already been things done to advocate for the safety of consumer data, but I do think that the right questions may be asked by those with a suitable background when issues of consumer data privacy, safety, and security arise. According to an article from the Pew Research Center by Kenneth Olmsted and the director of data labs at Pew Research Center, Aaron Smith, plenty of Americans already don't seem to trust various institutions with their own data anyways, which to me isn't really much of a surprise when you, again, take into consideration the things that we've learned about privacy concerns and breaches online. So I'll end this video with a question that I would like to read some of your sentiments on in the comments below. So with access to personal data on citizens, do you all personally believe that governments specifically have the interest of their citizens' privacy and security in mind? And should there be backdoors implemented for them to have access to any of our devices in case of, say, shootings, terrorism attempts, or any other acts that hold potential harm to especially national security? Also, what do you personally think should be the limits of these entities mentioned in the video regarding the data that they capture on consumers? And what tips do you have for people to just stay safe online? We now live in a data-driven economy where your information and my information are so incredibly valuable that corporations are willing to invest millions and millions of dollars into making something meaningful with it and find new ways to connect with people. We are the customer, and in a way, we're also the products. I mean, this is what's become like the new normal. We also have all these products constantly updating themselves to provide us with some sort of new features, and with that, all new vulnerabilities for anyone to exploit for their own personal gain. We need to ask ourselves just how these affect our online personas and our personal lives. We should think about when this becomes too much and what may need to be done on our end, along with what should be demanded of the companies that work with our data. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next time. Be sure to stay subscribed for more content. Peace. I'm a little deviant. Oh, right, I'm still recording. Wait, what? Oh, dang, that's awkward. Oh. Oh. Oh my god! I'm a little deviant.